Welcome to another episode of the Wolfpack Way on the Real Estate Agent Playbook. I'm so excited to bring my good friend Bryan Knisley from Las Vegas, Nevada, a 25-year vet in the real estate industry. And through talking to Bryan, we go through a ton of places in his career where he felt like he was at the top and then was able to step back and analyze the situation, the market, the industry, the people around him, and make pivots that have only leveled him up. From chasing financial freedom to then realizing owning a brokerage that the time freedom was more important, to bringing his team over to the Wolfpack here at EXP, all the way now to focusing solely on revenue share and growing assets for agents that he now has time to do because of the leverage he has gained. This is an incredible interview, an incredible story about a broker owner who has gone through the struggles, has gone through the successes, and now is able to say that the weight is lifted. So if you like what he has to say, please reach out and let's co-sponsor. Together, myself, Bryan, and you are the dream team, and we can make it happen. But without further ado, let's bring on Bryan Knisley from Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, we got Bryan Knisley, my buddy from Vegas, just like we talked about in the intro. And we are coming together to talk all about his story, from a very successful broker owner in Vegas to, bringing his brokerage over to our group and starting a production team, to now really going full bore into his own production again in rev share. So we're going to talk about all that. But first, Bryan, thanks so much for coming on, man. Great to see you. How are things going?
Awesome, dude. I really can't believe this is the first time I'm on your channel. So that's an epic fail on my part. I'm sorry about that, but I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, man, you've had a lot going on the last couple of years, and that's kind of where we're going to dive in. So take me back to, the initial decision to become a broker owner and kind of how that looked, because obviously the story of my dad and him going that route after just 2 years in the business. So tell me a little bit about Bryan Knisley, the realtor, and what got you into the brokerage world.
Yeah, I was looking to take over the world, man.
Yeah.
I think the brokerage was kind of twofold. I'd started my career, 25 years ago in the investing space. And so I got heavily into the investing space, working with hedge funds and building portfolios and working with small private capital groups and things like that, and flipping properties. And we did all that. And, the brokerage actually was kind of born out of a convenience to my asset management company. Mm-hmm. Because we were doing a lot of unique things, and I didn't want to have broker buy-in. I'm like, I just want to have control over this whole process. Plus, it was a little bit more of a revenue capture for us as well. It's like, hey, if I can control this whole process, then it makes more sense to do the brokerage. Yeah, I opened up the brokerage, and then I realized, this is another opportunity for us to kind of separate duties, because at that point we've been operating our asset management company, my partner and I, for 10 years, and so our flip process was kind of on autopilot, and he could manage that whole thing. I said, well, let's just separate duties. You take over the asset management side, I'll take over the brokerage side. And we'll just build this thing. We'll build two legs to our business, and they'll complement one another. And so that's really kind of what it was born from.
True vertical, right? We're always talking about getting a vertical opportunities in our business. And so A Better Life Realty kind of came of that, and obviously out of necessity or need on the asset management side. But then talk a little bit about the expansion and bringing other agents on, and kind of how that process worked, and how you kind of came into that piece of the.
Yeah. And that, if any other small brokerage owners are out there, they could probably relate to my story. I really started out as wanting to leave, to create something from my 25 years of experience in real estate. Like I didn't want to just head off into the sunset and go, okay, that was a great 25 years, and now I have nothing to show for it. Right. So the brokerage was really kind of like, this is a chance for me. You hear people talking about legacy all the time. I mean, what does that actually mean? And for me, it was about being able to have something that I could pour my heart and soul into, and help other people create success in an industry that I absolutely love, and that's given me everything that I have today, and the freedom and the lifestyle that I have today, and be able to give back to those agents and build that way. And it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. So I mean, when it was cooking? What was the, agent count, and kind of what was the transaction amount you guys were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I was small. I got to 35 agents, and it's 100% my fault that I didn't grow to a bigger account than that, a bigger production. And, I've always been taught in business to lead with revenue, right? You got to lead with revenue. You can't just throw money at this business and expect to succeed. That's going to be a quick, track to failure. Yeah. And so you're always playing this kind of seesaw thing with like, I'm putting all of this energy and effort into getting my agents producing and getting me in the door. I'm training, retaining, bringing in new systems and training and all that type of stuff and getting them producing. And then now you got some more volume, and now so I'll bring in some more leverage, which creates, more overhead, basically more liability. And then you start playing this kind of like this game of back and forth. Maybe I'll lose some agents, maybe I'll gain some agents. I've got to bring in new up-to-date training. So now I've got to go out and find this training, because as a broker owner, you don't want to just turn your agents onto somebody else. Yeah. Like, hey, here's Jeremy's training. Go check out his stuff. He's awesome. Well, Jeremy's going to take my agents now. Yeah. Right. And so I always had to be the guy that was out there, learning and growing and providing them with the most up-to-date training that I could possibly provide. And so I was always hiring trainers and mentors and building systems around the things that I could learn. Hmm. Well, that's not exactly a scalable model, Right.
Yeah. And so as we kind of see, there's a couple ceilings, and you didn't mention how many homes you sold in that one magical year, but we're not dealing with somebody that is new to the business. So what was that? What was your high point in transactions that 1 year?
Personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, when I was in production, so when I started my brokerage, I got out of production. Yeah. Basically into the asset management company. Once we started working with hedge funds, I got out of production, and just became, basically managing the entire process. Mm. But we were flipping
500
properties.
And some.
Yeah, we were flipping properties down at the auction, and this was in like 2012 in a declining market here in Vegas, because the real estate industry fell off the shelf there. 2008 crash, and then 2010, 12 was like the bottom of the barrel. We were selling the houses at $50 a foot at that time, which is crazy. We're at like 300 to 500 foot right now in Vegas. Yeah. So it was out of necessity, we were flipping properties down there at the auction. Well, the hedge funds now came into town, and they just wiped out all of our margins. There was no buying at auction anymore, because they could buy at retail and above, because they're buying for yield and not for a spread. Yeah. Right. Long-term holds, as long as they got a 6 net on their portfolio, they're good. Yeah. So we got an opportunity, because we made a name for ourselves, and we were, a responsible operator of investors' funds, and really building bridges in the business, because I've always been coming from a place of building relationships and treating everybody as if I work for them and not the other way around. Mm-hmm. And it creates additional opportunities for you. And this is where it created the opportunity for me to be able to, I got approached by two of the largest hedge funds in the country at the time. And one of them wanted me to be a corporate head and squash my asset management company and sign a contract that was like this thick. And I'm like, I'm unemployable. I can't do that. Yep. It was a great opportunity, but I just, and then the other hedge fund, which was the one I went to work for, was Colony. Mm-hmm. And they allowed us to be a vendor of theirs. They said, hey, just here's a blank check. Go buy us everything that fits within this box. Mm-hmm. So in 2013, late 2012 into 2013, I was able to close 587 homes in 2013 with one client. So, niching down, there's something to that.
There's something there.
That are listening, I've always been like, follow the money. Where is the money? And then get yourself in front of that and create opportunities for that. Yeah, so that's where that led.
Yeah. Finding the winners in the market for sure. Right. Yeah. And then it's just opportunity based, right? You had an opportunity because of the market in your local area was perfect for that. Yeah. Right. Like, if you could imagine what all those houses sold for then and what they're worth now, like, that's why we have hedge funds.
That's why they're smarter than we are.
Right. So then we're moving on to the brokerage and kind of hitting that ceiling, right? The asset management had kind of hit the ceiling. The market had changed a little bit. Then you're like, okay, I love helping people. And then we're 35, but then we're up against this ceiling of, of training and providing that value. And so what was that turning point where you're like, okay, well, there has to be something else? Like, was it just that you were sick of, trying to pull in everything and having to be the person that's creating the value, or what did that look like when you?
Yeah, I just felt like the water level just kept rising, and and I'm now here with a little straw trying to keep my head above water, and it just wasn't what I got into it for. It was like, this isn't what I got into this for. And I started projecting, into the future. It's like, well, if I stay on this same trajectory for 5 years from now, what does that look like? I'm like, how do I get out of this? But at the same time, it was everything that I had at the time. So I was kind of stuck. I'm like, I created this to leave a legacy and have something where I could eventually, after 25 years of the industry, start to let off the gas pedal a little bit and maybe even start to exit out of the business, but still have something to, provide for my family and like that legacy that we talked about. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was quickly starting to realize that there is no exit from, from an independent brokerage owner, because you are the business. Even if I were to get enough market share where I get an interest in a larger brokerage, you got an interest in me or an investor that wants to come in, you still are the business. Those agents are there because of you, not because of the sign on the door. So they would make you stay behind and they would pay me a certain amount to keep, retention for years. And I'm like, if I'm not going to stay here and build it, I might as well not even sell it. Right. So it's like, what to do now? That's where I was. And that's kind of where I started to realize that there's got to be something better.
Yeah, for sure. And so the decision to EXP, was there other options? What was that? Because obviously now in our position, we are able to cross collaborate and co-sponsor and all of those things. So if you're watching this, you like what you hear, you're in a similar position to Bryan right here, right now, because this is where the transition happened. Please book a call below and mention Bryan Knisley's name, and we'll definitely hook up, because you can co-sponsor with both of us and have both of our stuff. So talk to me a little bit about the decision, why EXP, why the group that you chose, and we'll go from there.
Well, first off, I didn't have a strategy. I was just, churning and churning and churning.
One of those YouTube viewers, aren't you? Click the button and here you are.
I was like, okay, something's got to give here at some point, and between you and I and all your viewers, it's like, I was almost at a point where like, I might have to shut this thing down. Mm-hmm. Like if I can't figure something out, because I'm burning myself out at a high rate, so I was burning the candle at both ends and just, every single day in it, trying to figure out a way to fix it. Hmm. And it just so happened that, I just talked about earlier, like I was the one that was always training my agents, because as like that independent brokerage owner, you're competing for a small market, like in your micro market of agents. That's the only pool of agents that you have to compete with to bring on to provide you with your source of revenue. Right. Mm-hmm. So I was always like, how can I be better? Right? How can I be better to attract more agents to my brokerage so that I can keep growing? Yeah. And so that's when I found Mike Sherrard, because I was like, social media, and this was, 4 years ago, something like 4 or 5 years ago. Social media was like, just up and coming, and everybody's on YouTube. Everybody's starting to get on YouTube. And I was like, I got to get in front of this. So I looked for the best person in that space to hire as a coach and mentor and find systems so that I could learn it and train my agents. Well, that's when I found Mike Sherrard. And, and I hated EXP at the time. I hated it. I'm like, I had agents coming into my office trying to recruit me to EXP, and I'm like, just go. Like, I already have revenue share because I own the brokerage, right? Yeah. But what I didn't realize was that anybody that came into my office at that time, they didn't understand the business model well enough to explain it to me as a business person. Mm-hmm. On a level that I understood and that made sense to me because it was a benefit to me. Mm-hmm. So that's really where kind of the light bulb or aha moment came in, was like, now when I met Mike, he introduced me to Garth, and Garth had just closed down his 5 agent offices up in Seattle and joined EXP and brought everybody over with him. And I saw one of these podcast interviews that Mike did with Garth. And it was like the same thing. It was like, man, this is my story. I'm like, I have to talk to Garth. Like, I have to figure out why he made this transition. Like, he's at 5 offices. He's got hundreds of agents. I'm like, he's where I want to be, and he made the transition. So I have to talk to him. So long story short is that we got together and they sat down and said, hey, let's take a look at this. You're a smart businessman. Let's take a look at this for the numbers aspect of it. Forget about the feature benefit and all that other stuff that everybody else is trying to sell you that you're kicking out of your office.
Right.
And once we sat down and ran the numbers and what it looks like right now and what it could look like and then what it could look like 5 years from now, it's like I couldn't unsee that now.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing in my office for 6 months going, how in the world am I actually going to close down my brokerage and move my entire agent pool over to EXP? Mm-hmm. But I knew it had to be done.
Yeah. And upon that, like the overhead eventually reduced, right? The other thing. So a Better Life Realty to a Better Life team. Talk a little bit about that, because essentially you didn't lose any of your identity.
No, it was, like I said, I molded over for 6 months and like, how can I possibly do this? Because, as a small independent brokerage, like your agents are your family. Yep. Like, these people are my family. They count on me. They depend on me to provide for their families and their livelihood. And so when I was making this decision, I had to know that this decision wasn't just for me. It was for my entire agent pool. Like, this is my team. This is my family. So I need to know that if I make this move, that there's going to be a huge benefit for my agents. And I'm able to articulate that to them in a way that's going to get them on board and get them excited about this move, right? Because it's a big deal, right?
So you were there.
Yeah. Oh, I was already there. I'm like, now how do I now get them excited about this and get them to see the vision that I now see that I couldn't see before?
Yeah.
And I was able to do that because of the leverage and value stack now that they have that I could never provide them as an independent brokerage owner. Like, it was it was an easy transition. And because of the relationship that I have with my agents, I believe I had one of the highest conversion rates of any brokerage going over to EXP. Mm-hmm. It was just an easy transition because once I showed them, what the benefit was to them, they're like, we trust you. We see the vision. We're all in. Let's go. Right. I believe it was a 95% conversion rate from all of my agents coming over.
Right.
Huge. And that was everything to me.
Mm-hmm. And that's, once that does it, you're like, why did it take me 6 months?
I was like, why did it take me 5 years?
Yeah. Right. And so, I mean, as you've kind of grown into that, you had the team concept and, that kind of, faded away a little bit. So talk about that transition, keeping your brand as, a better life and kind of where that took you.
Yeah, and that was really important to me because anybody that runs a brokerage knows that that's like your brand and your vision and everything is everything to you, because that's like, I built this thing from the ground up, and it was important for me to be able to keep that and keep the branding and keep a lot of things the same with my agents as well, because that was, one of the things that I promised them, like, there's not a lot's going to change as far as the face of this thing. Yeah, we're going to add a little logo in the bottom corner that says brokered by EXP. But everything else is going to stay the same as far as branding and the team structure and all of that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that was really important to me to know that I was able to keep that branding and keep that intact as we made that transition. It was easy. Right. EXP made it easy for us.
Yep. And then talk a little bit about how eventually your agents and everybody, you kind of dissolved that production team within that and kind of went to the revenue share model. Was that kind of freeing for them? What was that conversation like when you felt like, okay, I'm still running the same thing, I'm still trying to train, we're having a lack of plugging into other things that we have available? Talk a little bit about that decision to go full revenue share versus production team.
Yeah, it was going back to what I was, being true to who I was and what my mission was for creating the brokerage in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted to be able to pour all my time into agents and helping them build successful businesses and changing their lives. Yeah. And running my team, now that I had, bringing my team over or my brokerage over to EXP, it provided so much leverage for me now that now I could plug in all of my agents to, like, hey, now I've got Jeremy. I could plug my agents into Jeremy stuff. I've got, like the entire value stack on top of me, and they no longer had to depend on me to provide for them for the training and the support and the systems and everything that they needed to go out there and produce. I now have so much leverage because of the community that I introduced them to, which, as we know, is the Wolfpack, mm-hmm. and the value stack of everybody in there. It's like, now I am able to take a step back because now all I have to do is plug them into all of the systems and training and support, and now just be there to support them and then attract more agents into the system so that I can continue to build and grow as I wanted to do.
Right. So first off, you got out of Vegas, right? Like the geographical boundary was lifted the day that you decided to partner with a national independent brokerage.
Yeah.
And then you were able to probably to remove the splits, right? The additional splits that come with a team and those kind of things. And so as you see, you're just building those people up and plugging them into the right assets, because a lot of people don't need the same thing. Right. You've probably had people that have gone crazy with Social Agent Academy and gone through YouTube, and you've probably had people that haven't even logged into it that, made that transition 2 or 3 years ago. So as we kind of move forward and you're kind of it's just a story of ceilings and you absolutely busting through, right? And choosing when to pivot just a little bit, right? You're the same asset manager owner, but you're revealing these market things and what's going on in your life and your people surrounding you's life. So talk a little bit about your strategy just to be able to continually pivot and make the right decisions as you move forward. Because sure, there's been some wrong steps, but to me, just sitting here talking to you, it's very much so that you're paying attention to the other people around you, your business, and the market. So talk to me a little bit about your vision and your pivoting kind of strategy.
Yeah, it's about quality of life for me now at this point. 54 years old, 25 years in the industry. I'm looking for that leverage, and I'm looking to at some point be able to take my foot off the accelerator and still be able to continue to create momentum.
Yeah.
So that's really my entire motivation for this, but still be able to support everybody that's around me. And I don't think that there's a better environment than I'm in right now that I can do that. And so now everything that I now try to focus on is all about growth and production and helping people get there. Yeah. And they all now, everybody that I can bring into this space now all has the exact same opportunity that I now have, which is basically like the broker owner position that I was in before, that I couldn't give anybody that opportunity to be there because there was only one person that could have that opportunity in a small independent brokerage.
Yeah.
Now the ecosystem I'm in now, and that it's like now we all, the playing field has been leveled. We now all have the exact same opportunity to get absolute massive leverage, access to systems and training and support that I could never provide them before, and the ability to grow their revenue share organization, which allows them to have some sort of an exit out of this business at some point in the future. And I would say, trust me, after 25 years of not focusing on this, please take my word for it. You'll be sorry you didn't focus on it if you don't start now. And so production always comes first. Production is where everything starts, and everybody needs to produce first. So we put all of the leverage and systems and support in place to help them produce. But at the same time, is let me also show you how now you can create additional streams of revenue and eventually have an exit out of this business, which is going to create more leverage in your business because you're going to see the duplication side of things start to kick in as well.
Right. Yeah. And that's where the time freedom comes, right? Like you spent your whole career building financial freedom, so to speak, right? 500 plus homes in a year, almost 600, starting a brokerage, having your asset I'm sure the financial pieces were in pretty good shape for most of that growth. But then all of a sudden you're like, I'm 54 or I'm 50 or whatever you were when you started, looking at this opportunity. And financial freedom doesn't do you much good when you're tied to a brick and mortar, or you're tied to an office or your cell phone and those kind of things. So talk a little bit about the time freedom and where that's going, like when you're going to get there.
Yeah, well, you can see I've had a pretty successful career in real estate, lots of trophies up here. And these trophies of number 2 in the world, number 2 in the country, number 6 in the world with Remax and the Hall of Fame award. Those are great, vanity metrics, but they did that was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Those don't mean anything to me now, and my whole career has always been burn and turn. Yep. The flipping business, the production business, everything that you do is every time you close a transaction, you start over.
Yep.
And now it's I understand the power of leverage and the power of duplication, and everything that I put now moving forward is going to be towards that, and then helping other people create that. But it's just kind of that shift in mindset and knowing that there is a better model, and now I'm a part of that.
Right. So from the final year at your brokerage to your day-to-day today, what is the time you're putting into, what was the time you're putting into other agents and other agents' production versus what it is today, and what's the value of each of those?
Oh, I mean, it's night and day. When I was in running my brokerage, I would come in and it's 2/3 of my day was putting out fires and just reacting.
Right.
And it wasn't helping anybody. It wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping my agents. I was distracted and busy doing the things that that didn't allow us to create those opportunities for anybody. And so now it's like, making that shift and transition, it's like I have so much leverage now that I can now focus all my efforts onto the things that are going to move the needle for all of us and creating additional opportunities for all of us.
Yeah, I think I would agree that the reactiveness is a lot less. You're probably managing more agents than you had when at the top of your brokerage, but you're not wearing all the hats, right?
Yeah, but now it's good conversations. Like, these are the conversations I want to have. It's like, hey, what are we doing in your business? How can I help you grow? And having those good conversations that's promoting growth and production and all of that. Whereas before it was like just solving problems.
Yeah. And checklist, right? Just running down the checklist that's growing faster than you're checking it off.
It was the hamster wheel that you don't want to be on. And that was one of the reasons why I had it up to here with the brokerage. I'm like, I've got to get out of this.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm, so night and day difference. Like, I mean, you can probably see it in my face. I feel like the, 800-pound gorilla has been lifted off of my back. And now I can focus on the things that I actually like doing. That keeps me excited about the business. Because after 25 years in the business, you have to find things that keep you excited.
Yeah, and it's not the market turns, right? It's not the market crashing or exploding anymore.
Right. We all go through it. I've been through more market cycles than I care to mention, and none of that stuff matters. It's like it's always going to be there. It's like what fires you up about this business, and just start to focus your efforts on that, especially with somebody like me that's been in it for long enough. I'm like, it's all about lifestyle now. And like you said, creating that time freedom, because eventually I do want to take my foot off the accelerator.
Yeah,
I do want to be able to have something that's going to allow me to exit from this business and leave a legacy that I'm proud of. And I feel like I'm there now. It's just a matter of time now for when I get there.
Right. And so a lot of this has been, based on personal, reaction and all of that, right? You're just continuing to grow and pivoting here and pivoting there, and you've made a lot of right moves. But now that you're on this side of the fence at the place that you said you hated before, with our industry and everything that's going on, that's changing, right? We've had 2 pretty headline lawsuits over the last 2 years that, may or may not have tremendous impact. From this side of the fence, why does it make sense, based on where you see the industry going, to look at opportunities such as this?
I can't imagine still being in that brokerage owner seat right now. I really can't. It's kind of a scary position to be in. There's the industry is shifting. It's clear that it's completely shifting. And if I was a brokerage owner right now, I would definitely want to be taking a look at my business model and having an honest conversation. Like, sometimes you're so blinded by,
your baby. You put so much time into it, right?
And it's like you can't hear what you need to hear sometimes. So I would definitely say, make sure you're looking at your business, and if nothing changes, what does that look like 5 years from now? And have that honest conversation. If that's the path that you want to be on and that sounds good to you, then great, keep going. But if you're honest with yourself, you're gonna realize that the industry is changing, and you have to continue to shift and pivot with the industry, and creating, have that honest conversation about, what if things change 5 years from now? What does my business look like? And if I don't have that kind of leverage, and if that's not, then make a shift now. Like, have a conversation about what that could look like, and just be open to it, and put your ego aside.
Yeah.
And that's where I made the shift was I had to put my ego aside and really sit down and have an honest conversation about the business, because I was in denial for a very long time.
For sure. And lawsuits aside, which I'm sure we'll continue to see lawsuits, move forward with this industry now that these class action lawsuits have, gained some steam. But the technology and the cost of technology alone, right? If we're not utilizing technology and on the forefront of technology as a brokerage, as independent agents who, broker owners are required to train or should be training, like if we're not on the front edge of it, I have no doubt that there will be opportunities for technology to replace us. Right. And I think, like our good friend Adam talks about, the person who is utilizing technology and, utilizing it for good will still maintain the human connection, which will be needed for at least the next 20 or 30 years, depending on where we go. And so do you have the ability to keep up with the technology, right, as a broker owner? And do you want to? Right? Because as broker owners get older, it's just like when the computers came in, right? I remember my dad vividly being like, "Oh, you don't need that computer. Like, we got the typewriter over here, right?" And I'm playing.
We got our listing book over here in the car.
For sure, the MLS. And I think that technology is just a huge, huge piece of it. And we all know that nothing's getting cheaper, but technology is certainly not. So I think that's a great point you make. Like, where are we going to be in 5 years? And do I have the capital, because we leave with revenue, to continue to do this, where, within the Wolfpack and so on and EXP, we're very tech forward. So the brokerage is handling some of it, the Wolfpack's handling some of it. And then individually, we're able to kind of make our own trail. So as a broker owner, I don't see that as you're pretty much the brokerage, the team, and the operator.
I'm just exhausted just even thinking about having to make those transitions without having the leverage that I have now.
Right.
Like, because I got out just before we had this whole commission lawsuit changes and things that were going on. And I couldn't imagine having to navigate that myself. Mm-hmm. And having to figure all of that out as an independent brokerage owner, because I made the transition to EXP just before that happened, and now we've got an entire staff of 2,000 people that are handling it for us. Right. And I can still continue to focus on what I need to focus on because of that leverage. But the technology, like I said, when AI was introduced, like it's hard for us to keep up with, and I'm now immersed in AI because of Adam, because of Mike, because of the leverage that I have now and the access to the training and support systems that I have now. I'm able to now go and teach agents. I do an event once a month here in Vegas, and giving back to the agent community here in Vegas on teaching them how to effectively use AI and social media to become more effective and more profitable in their business. Mm-hmm. There's no possible way I could have done that as in my previous role of what I was doing. I just didn't have the resources or the time or the leverage to do that.
Time to even learn it, let alone learn how to keep teaching.
Even though I'm in it every day and learning new stuff every day, and I'm teaching stuff that's just blowing agents out. They're like, I can't believe we can do this. I'm like, I can't believe you don't know this already. Like, this is just basic level stuff. Like, how do you not know this? But you got to understand that the leverage part of it. Like, I now created enough time for me to be able to go out and learn this stuff, and now be able to again bring it back to my agents, which is what I got in the business for in the first place. Yeah.
Right. And so I'll leave you this one question about your brokerage life. If somebody would have latched onto that class action lawsuit on the buyer agent commission, would you have been able to afford an attorney to even respond as a broker owner to that response to that?
100% no. Like, the margins are so thin as a brokerage owner. I had the privilege of owning an asset management company while I was running my brokerage that provided me with the income that I needed, the revenue that we needed to support the brokerage. Mm-hmm. But without that, like, I wouldn't have been able to pay myself. Right. I mean, I would have had to stay in production in order to run a 35 agent brokerage. That's how thin the margins are. And that's how really terrible the business model is.
Right. And as we move forward, that's there. And that's my biggest fear, right? Because once they slap a class action label on these lawsuits, anyone can raise their hand.
Yeah.
And if you have 35 agents, your name's on a few transactions, I'm sure, in Vegas over the years. So that's definitely something that I've thought about, and I don't know if everybody else is thinking about. It's not about what happens or whatever. Like, can you even respond to that? Can you even, get in that mix? Because we all know it's, certainly a money play and those kind of things. So
I went from having all of that liability, all of my overhead, all of the stress, all of the pressure of being the one and only to continue to push this brokerage forward and support my family, because that's where my agents were, to now running a global empire for $85 a month with zero liability and very, very little overhead, like almost zero overhead.
Yeah.
And now being able to grow and support even more than I was able to do before. So it was like, where is the downside to that?
Right.
And that's what I would like for other people to see is like, just like I said, put your ego aside and just look at the numbers aspect of it and the leverage side of it. And if it makes sense, great. If not, if you're on the right trajectory, then keep going. But man, I can almost guarantee you once you see it, you're like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yep. And if that's the case, we'll link all of Bryan's stuff. You can reach out to him for a private conversation. Mention me, mention this interview. But Bryan, where's the best place for people to connect to you?
Just on social media. I got a YouTube channel and I'm on Instagram, Bryan_Knisley. You can find me anywhere.
Yeah, check that spelling. Bryan Knisley. But you'll find him. Vegas Realtor. So, hey, Bryan, thanks so much for your time today, man. Appreciate you. And again, if you're interested in just looking behind the curtain, seeing what's, possible within, this, as Bryan and I can co-sponsor together and really help you with these decisions. And we know it's not for everybody, but it's for most people. So thanks so much for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, reach out to Bryan, and I can't wait to connect.